This is Money Moves on VSiN, the sports betting network.
They call it March Madness for a reason. We have had plenty of chaos already as conference tournaments have been underway for the last, week and a half now. Stormy Buonantony, Jonathan Von Tobel with you live in downtown Las Vegas Circa Resort and Casino, and that extended into this morning as we saw St. Louis with the biggest comeback in program history today against George Washington. They were down 14 at halftime, as many as 21 in the game. Come all the way back to not only win the game, but also cover the closing 6.5, 88-81, your final score there. And we are in the thick of it with about 3 minutes to go in Ohio State and Michigan, where Ohio State gets a key win yesterday to all but cement their spot into the NCAA tournament. They're a 12.5-point dog today against the top seed in the Big Ten, Michigan, and we are in a 2-point game right now, JVT.
Yes, we are, and a big highlight here for one Bruce Thornton, who has been absolutely incredible so far, comes in averaging just over 20 points per game, has 20 so far today. The leading scorer for the Buckeyes and one of two double-digit scorers, Devin Royal, also coming in with 10 points and 9 rebounds, so very close to a double-double, adding 2 steals, which is really helping this Buckeyes team along at this point right now. So too is the poor shooting from Michigan. They're just 5 of 16 from beyond the arc. It's made a little bit of a difference here, but we've talked a lot about this Ohio State team from a bubble standpoint. Feel like we should talk about them a little bit more from a, do any of these teams want to see Ohio State at this point? They have now won 4 straight. Here they are putting Michigan on the ropes right now, potentially. We'll see what happens, obviously, with about 3 minutes left to go in this game or so. But Ohio State, one of the hotter teams in the country, entering the most important portion of the schedule.
Yeah, getting hot at the right time. That's what you want to be if you're one of these teams headed into the dance. Missouri State and La Tech as well going head-to-head right here in the CUSA semifinal. Depending on your book at close, you could find plus 1.5 on either side. And this game is played within that range virtually all game. A 2-point game right now in favor of Louisiana Tech with about 11 minutes to go here in the second half. And then Kentucky and Florida in the SEC tournament going on as well. Florida, obviously a big game for the Gators, who are trying to step up to get that 4th and final number 1 seed in the NCAA tournament. This was an 11.5-point spread, and we're in that range right now at halftime. Florida up 37-28 at the break.
Yeah, looking at these two, I mean, obviously halftime, so you maybe find some opportunities here and what sticks out so far. And I think so far what has stuck out is, despite the fact that Florida is not shooting the ball particularly well, they are at least up on top here by about 9. You wonder if that's going to change. Kentucky has been really terrible from the floor. 10 of 30 from the floor, 2 of 11 from beyond the arc, both of them. You do wonder if maybe this is a second half in which Florida can actually get out there and extend the lead that they already have right now. Offensive rating is fine, but just over a point per possession. You can really make the case here that Florida actually could pull away as you move forward.
And all these games, we're going to be sweating out with you live on air throughout the course of the next 2 hours, and hopefully riding the vibes of all of the people behind us today at the book. Circa is, of course, the world's largest sports book, and huge contingent of people out here. It's Pacific time, right? So we just hit 11 a.m. Pacific out here on the West Coast. And I love the energy of just crushing Miller Lights and wings at 10:30 when I walked in this morning. It's unbelievable.
I mean, this is why this is the better, some would argue this is the better week to come down, because while the first 4 days of the NCAA tournament are fantastic, next week we'll experience that. We'll be out at Bar Canada for the show. We'll be, I would assume, out watching games as well at some point too, because this show, we're friends, this is the week that you go around, because this is fun. Like, there's conference tournaments in town, so you can go to the Mountain West, you can go to the WAC, you can go to the West Coast Conference when it's underway. You can watch all the games everywhere, too. And there's something about being out early in the morning and already having some bets down and having some games that are already final. And so you can just do it for the rest of the day.
I think to your point, though, that's the nice part about it is you don't have to deal with quite as large of a crowd as you do for the first round of the NCAA tournament. And you have the opportunity to not only watch games at the books, but to be able to go out to a handful of tournaments as well. West Coast was a ton of fun out here. Obviously, we've already been partaking in the Mountain West. Some critical games coming up today in the Mountain West semifinal with a couple bubble teams, which we'll get into in a little bit. But I did want to talk real quickly a little Big 12 action, because we do have a couple potentially awesome games in the Big 12 coming up a little bit later on. Arizona in line to be a 1 seed in the tournament. Houston making its case to be a contender as well. Arizona gets Iowa State today. Houston gets Kansas. But before we get to our handicaps of the game, it looks like they won't be playing on that glass LED court anymore.
Yep, they're replacing it. Traditional hardwood coming out, so these games don't tip until about 4 o'clock, as you mentioned. But the Big 12 has given up their experiment. Let the women play the entire tournament on it, but they have decided
Don't care about their injury.
But they have decided that it's time to change the court, rightfully so. We had an injury already that has been contributed to the floor. Guys were slipping, complaining. I guess you give them credit for being somewhat innovative, but you don't need to. You're the best conference in basketball right now. You're insanely deep. Today, you've got 4 teams going at it with potential national championship aspirations. Mm-hmm. There's no need to risk this at this point right now. You got to put these teams in the best position possible. So I think it makes some sense. I haven't seen anything that says it's affected scoring or anything like that, but maybe you'll get some better efforts or at least maybe some higher caliber basketball today because you get a more traditional floor as opposed to maybe playing with a little bit of trepidation considering the surface you're playing on.
I was laughing. I heard our guy Dustin Sweetelson last night on Cashing Out talking about how, wait, so does this mean like any of my losers from earlier in the tournament I can get voided?
Right,
because clearly the court was, playing off of that.
Do you see some of the images like up close?
Yes.
Of like some of the panels were lifted and everything. I was amazed that they were actually allowing that to happen.
So apparently part of it has to do with when some of these guys are really trying to like dig and make a move,
sure,
the panels are sliding a little bit, which clearly, that's not going to work. Right. And the lights have been a distraction, according to some of the teams as well, as a part of this. That said, fortunately for them, they did have a court on standby, and it was available readily for them to get out there today. Let's start with Iowa State, Arizona here real quickly, because both teams coming off very dominant wins yesterday. Arizona, just a crushing win over UCF. Iowa State, I mean, they did some damage against Texas Tech yesterday. 3.5-point spread, slightly bet up for Arizona on their side from 3 to that 3.5. Total 143.5.
I'm an Arizona guy, as I have said multiple times. I know a lot of people have questioned whether or not Tommy Lloyd can get this done. Market's kind of betting this up, as you mentioned. Some spots are peaking at 4. To me, it's going to be Arizona here against Iowa State. I trust in this team. They've got the ball handling to handle the ball pressure that Iowa State wants to put on you, to force those turnovers, to get out and run. They're obviously a much better team in terms of their own half-court offense. I am in on what this Arizona team is bringing to the table. And I think if you look at the matchup itself, it all really works. I mean, one of the things that Arizona has done very well is take care of the basketball. They're second best in offensive turnover rate. They're the best team at getting to the free throw line in Big 12 play. Look, they don't take a ton of threes, and they don't make a ton of threes. So maybe Iowa State can ratchet that portion of their game up. They're a very good three-point shooting team, and they do take quite a bit. So maybe you try to win the math battle if you're Iowa State and try to get this thing done from a beyond the arc, I should say. But as we talked about before, Stormy, when you play in games like this, shooting threes does help, but you want to slow down the pace, and that's not what Iowa State really wants to do. They don't play particularly fast, but they're not going to walk the ball up here. So I think Arizona can get this done today. And what time does this game start at, right? 4 o'clock? So that'll be a sweat.
That sounds right,
sweat a little bit later today.
Plus 450 Arizona is to win a national title. Iowa State also, they were 17-1, but with some of the up and down performances they've had lately, out to 23-1. So if that is a team that you believe in big picture, long term, maybe a potential buy low spot on that. As for Kansas and Houston, this game is 5.5 in favor of the Cougars here. Total bet up slightly to 138.5, and I imagine we'll see plenty more movement on this one leading up to tip-off as well.
Yeah, I mean, so Kansas gets it done against TCU. We talked a lot about this one yesterday because I was hoping that TCU could pull it off and get you here. Houston's been, again, even by, I think, myself, been somewhat underrated and forgotten since that little 3-game stretch that they had where they had lost those contests. Didn't cover yesterday against BYU. It was a little bit of a big number against the Cougars, but do think maybe they can get it done. The ATS results haven't really been there for Houston, but maybe we're buying a little bit at the bottom of the market here against Kansas as a 5.5-point favorite. So lean a little bit here toward Houston. We'll see if the market continues to cut this down, though, and you can get something a little bit cheaper.
Big miss layup for Ohio State here as we head to the final minute against Michigan that could have made it a 2-point game. We're at 4 right now. Michigan just called a timeout. See what happens here in the final 60 seconds if Ohio State can make things interesting. I
don't know. I'm not entirely sure. Each of their last 5 possessions or so has been, please, Thornton, let's see if you can bail us out here. And that really has not worked for them. You mentioned that right there, the layup that looked like maybe partially blocked. So I think that Ohio State, obviously on fumes, down 4 with 60 seconds left. You got to find some different form of offense. Or if you are going to use Thornton, set them up better because a couple of the possessions just been turnaround jumpers from the free throw line. That's not going to get you anything.
Okay, we're going to be talking college basketball all day long here on Money Moves. A few great guests along the way as well. VSiN's own Will Hill is going to join us in about 20 minutes, get his best bets on the day. We're also going to talk some live betting strategies for the Players Championship when Reed Fowler joins us in hour 2. Also in hour 2, our boy Zach Cohen breaking down the NBA card. Should we continue to fade these NBA teams that are tanking? I think yes. The parlay comes home yesterday.
You got it yesterday, right?
Got another opportunity for it today. Speaking of the association, though,
League.
how about 5-legger for even money, but we cashed it, baby.
Yeah.
SGA breaks Wilt Chamberlain's record yesterday, 27th straight 20-point game. He has 35, 6, and 9, which included, by the way, the go-ahead shot late with about 30 seconds to go as OKC beats the Celtics 104-102.
Smoked layup by Ohio State, by the way. I couldn't see who that was, but that was a clean run to the basket, and you just short-armed the layup. That's pretty rough, but you bailed out by foul, so you're going to have a couple of free throws coming up as they're in the double bonus. We talked about this earlier in the week after he tied the record, and I think what we said was he will set the record.
And
it's Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I mean, yes. He's absolutely fantastic, so I don't think it's a giant surprise that it's a surprise in the grand scheme of things in that we didn't expect him to be this great, but given the way that he has been playing, I don't think it was a massive surprise that he was able to get it done. We saw a lot of complaints yesterday from the Boston Celtics, including Jaylen Brown, about the fouls and whatnot for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. There's a couple, but either way, you mentioned it, 35 points. The dude's been on an absolute roll here. You have the Denver game in which he was absolutely dominant and helped beat the Denver Nuggets almost single-handedly. Back-to-back 35-point games. The dude's been awesome, and he's got 3 of them in his last 5, I believe it is. So the dude's been insane and more and more driving that nail into the coffin of MVP.
And he is out to minus 800 right now in the MVP market. 1 free throw made, 1 missed for Ohio State. It's a 1-possession game. Michigan with the ball, 24 seconds to go. Also, what makes that SGA thing that much cooler, in my opinion, he has not played any overtime games to get to the 20 points on this run. Hasn't played in 35 fourth quarters as well on that stretch, and has the most clutch points in the NBA. So look at you. This is a record that dates back to 1963. He now stands alone at the top of that mountain. We got to step aside here. When we come back, like we said, lots of college basketball to get into, including the closing moments of this Michigan-Ohio State game. We'll be right back.
Hey, let me get your attention real quick, podcast listeners. It's March, which means the madness is officially upon us, and the folks at VSiN have really gone crazy with this one. I'm being told that for just $29.99, you can get unlimited access to VSiN Pro through May 1st. I'm talking picks through the tournament, public betting data for every single game, plus sharp tools, projections, articles, and more. But here's the thing. There's already a ton up on the site for Champ Week, which means every day you wait is an opportunity missed. Just click the link in the description to get started. It's March, baby. All right, now back to the show.
Watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Back here on Money Moves, this segment sponsored by Upside. Download the free Upside app today and earn real cash back every time you fill up your gas tank. Plus, right now, when you download the app, use the promo code SPORTS for 25 cents back per gallon on your first tank. Stormy Buonantony, Jonathan Von Tobel with you back here on Money Moves, live from downtown Las Vegas, Circa Resort and Casino. Lots of college hoops in action right now, including in the Big Ten, where we've got a 2-point game between Ohio State and Michigan. 6 seconds to go. Michigan at the line right now, though, seeing if they can extend this thing. But this has been a much closer game than anyone ever could have anticipated as that first shot does go down. So it's a 12.5-point spread for the top seed against the 8th seed, but Ohio State gets the win yesterday and is very plucky today. So even if they can't pull this off, still a no-doubt cover on the 12.5.
Yep, we got an 83% free throw shooter at the line, Jax Landborg, so we'll see if he can get it done and extend. You got to get this to 4, obviously, with 6 seconds left. We've seen some shoddy free throw shooting down the stretch here for both teams, so this is pretty much it. Can you cut this thing, or can you extend this thing out to 4? It's got to be a lot of pressure. Would you be able to handle it?
Always.
Hits them both.
And he does. And he does. Missed opportunities, though, for Ohio State down the stretch, certainly, as we go here.
Yeah, and even their penultimate possession there offensively took a lot of time just to get a mid-range jumper up. I was somewhat surprised by it. And that 3-point shot's not going to fall. This is going to be over 71-67. Michigan is not going to cover as a 12.5-point favorite. Ohio State will lose and be eliminated, and the Wolverines will move on in the Big Ten tournament.
Boom. Want to get to a little bubble talk and some more notable games that are on deck for us today. Obviously, a big conversation point coming out of yesterday, and we actually led the show with it, was Miami of Ohio losing their first-round game to UMass yesterday, despite the perfect 31-0 regular season, just the third team ever to have won that many games and gone undefeated entering their conference tournament. They lose right away, but they were living on the edge for a while. They had a ton of one-possession games, including down the stretch, 3 straight 2-point games to end the regular season. They lose yesterday. Travis Steele, though, give him credit after the game. Their head coach said all the right things about it being out of his control, but I don't know how we're not in it. What did surprise me, though, was hearing how adamant UMass head coach Frank Martin was in support of Miami of Ohio as well, saying they absolutely should be in the tournament. Take a listen.
They better. It'd be a complete embarrassment if the decision makers sit in that room. And I've been privy to being on the NABC board. They allow us to go do a sample selection Sunday with the people on the committee. So I know the criteria that goes into it. We've created a bad system. Why? All our teams in our league were all assigned a number before the season started. Those metric numbers that are assigned to us, how do we ever change those numbers if we can't play the teams that are assigned the number 20 to start the season? Because they ain't scheduling. Excuse my bad English. They're not going to schedule us. I've been around the block a couple times, and it's one of the reasons that I was so nervous today. It'd be an embarrassment, a complete embarrassment, if this league doesn't get 2 teams in. This league's too good. I've coached in Conference USA, Big East, name the league. I've been in it, and the top 2 teams in this league are as good as anyone in some of those leagues that I just mentioned. And it'd be a complete embarrassment if that doesn't happen.
So I think they're in, and worth noting, Joe Lunardi, of course, great with the bracketology over at ESPN. He has the Redhawks in as one of his last 4 buys, and something that he has noted throughout the week is that last year the committee made a difference in how they do their metrics, really prioritizing WAB, wins above the bubble, and strength of record. That was used to justify the inclusion of North Carolina, if you remember last year, who went 1-12 in quad 1 wins. Miami of Ohio has a better WAB and strength of record than all the other bubble teams that they're competing against for that spot. So that is something that at least it appears they and others are hoping will get them in.
Yeah, I mean, I feel somewhat confident that they're going to be in, but obviously you have to prepare yourself for the fact that it couldn't happen just because of the schedule and the metrics. But I think that this should and probably will happen, that they will be in. And look, I mean, Frank Martin there, he does want to stick up for his conference because what if he's in that position, obviously. So you do have to make sure that you pound the desk for 2 bids in the MAC. And I think it makes sense, especially if the presumed favorite, Akron, ends up winning this thing. Akron and Miami, Ohio are 2 quality teams that would deserve to get in, I think, given what we have seen from both of them. But it goes back to what everybody said. I'm not saying anything new. You can't devalue a 31-0 season just by getting rid of them because they lost an 11 a.m. tip in a conference tournament after 31 undefeated games.
So it's probably going to be Dayton, but I do think we see them in. I would like to see them just in the full field. I saw the idea yesterday. You should do Auburn and Miami, Ohio, and Dayton. I would love that.
Wouldn't that be great?
And that is actually another point of conversation here. So let's get to it. They lose to Tennessee yesterday. Just stop making shots. It looked like let Tennessee go on a 20-0 run. So a 10-point lead turns into a 10-point deficit. Final score 72-62. Tennessee does end up covering the 5.5 after being down as many as they were. Here's head coach Stephen Pearl on his case for the Tigers to get in.
So we scheduled a really hard, out of conference schedule. We had some really quality wins in that streak. If you look at, this tournament is a team of who you can beat. And if you look at, if we're going to look at 6 teams on the bubble right now with Texas, SMU, VCU, Miami of Ohio, Missouri, New Mexico, we have more top 25 net wins than everyone in that group but Missouri. We have more top 50 wins than everyone in that group. We have 2 top 25 road neutral wins, which is more than everyone else on the bubble. We have more wins over the projected field than anyone else on the bubble. If you look at the major metrics that they use, net, KenPom, BPI, T-Rank, KPI, strength of record, and wins above the bubble, we are better than every team in that group in at least 5 out of the 7 categories, and in a couple of them 6 of the 7. If you look at our strength of schedule, overall, we're at 3, and out of conference, we're in 15. And if you look at the rest of that list, they're far below us as far as the schedule that we played. So, we did the things that were asked of us in scheduling. And, with 10 new guys, that was probably a little aggressive on our part with 9 underclassmen. But, our guys have some of the best wins in college basketball. And, this team deserves to be in the tournament.
I'll tell you, I don't know who Auburn basketball's sports information director is, but you nailed the one-sheeter trying to give him the points that you needed to get across. That said, I still don't think Auburn deserves to be in.
Yeah, this is so, as somebody who likes metrics, data, projections, things like that, this is where I think you have the problem, which is, you can't just sit there and say, well, we're better than all of these teams because these projection systems believe that to be the case. The market's been too high on Auburn. They've been an awful cover team. So that's been one of the things where maybe all of these projections are just too high on you. At some point, and it ties into Miami, the results do have to matter. And while Miami beat up on the easiest schedule in the country, or one of the easiest schedules in the country, Auburn, you could sit there and say, yeah, we scheduled all these hard opponents. Okay, that's great. You're 4-13 in quad one. You're 3-2 in quad two. You have a quad 3 loss on your resume as well. At some point, because this is why these two teams I think are so interesting, not only because they're just both on the bubble, but because of the stark contrast between the two of them. One has an easy schedule, but has taken care of everything it needs to beat up on that easy schedule outside of the conference tournament. The other has said, well, at least we tried.
Yeah.
And we should be in because of that, and because some of you think that we're actually better. I understand it. There's a lot of people who are going to do the same thing we do with the NCAA, or excuse me, with the college football playoffs, which is, this team would be favored over. Who cares?
Yeah.
At some point, you have to deliver. And Auburn has not done that.
How about Bruce Pearl losing his mind?
I saw the, it's like when these little league parents get a little too.
Yeah, that's such a great call.
Dude, that's embarrassing, man. Like, do we have it confirmed? Who is he yelling at? Was he yelling at the officials or was he yelling at somebody
I'm pretty
else?
sure it was an official. That's what it seemed like.
Embarrassing,
Tigers finished the season now 17-16 because of the early bounce from the SEC tournament. No more opportunities to strengthen that. That is what it is, and we'll go from there. Joe Lunardi does have them on the first 4 out. To go back real quickly, though, because we were having the conversation all within the Miami of Ohio, Auburn context. Today with UMass, I kind of think this is a fade spot for them coming off of what was such a big win for them yesterday. There was all of this conversation surrounding Miami of Ohio. They're the undefeated team. They're the big dog. I think maybe we haven't been targeting letdown spots enough so far as we've been watching conference tournament action. This could be a spot there. I didn't want to necessarily lay 2.5 or 3, but I did do a -142 money line price on Toledo. I know it's hefty, so go ahead and lay the number if that's what you prefer. I didn't want to lay that just because they did lose their regular season matchup in Amherst, but covered the 2.5 in that. It was just a 2-point loss for them then. Looking at some of the stuff for Toledo, they saw against Bowling Green yesterday, you cannot let your foot off the gas. They led by as many as 12, but it ended up being a close call when all was said and done. Prior to that, though, covered 3 straight, 4 of their last 5 games, 1 straight up, 5 of their last 6. The lone loss in that by 1 possession to Miami of Ohio. I just think they're playing better basketball right now.
Sure. I mean, and down the stretch, too, for UMass, some of these overtime losses, you probably should be a little bit, or should be on the better side of some of those results as well, including a triple overtime loss to Coastal Carolina. So the results should be a little bit better. Their offense has been pretty solid in conference play as well. So I think you can really trust that.
Yeah, UMass did drop 6 of 7 games entering the tournament before that win yesterday as well. They're the 8th seed for a reason, all of those things. So that's one angle. I know we have to hit the break here, but I did want to remind you before we go, don't pay full price at the pump anymore. Get the free Upside app and use the promo code SPORTS because that'll get you 25 cents back per gallon on your first tank as well. Get started now with the free Upside app. Offers vary by user and location. See upside.com for terms. But come on, you got to get in there. There is no reason to pay full price these days when you can get cash back. We'll be right back.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Time winding down in Missouri State La Tech right now for the Conference USA semifinal. We talked about this earlier, depended on your book who closed the favorite in that one. Louisiana Tech with about 60 seconds to go, up 4 right now. See if they can ultimately close this one out. And UAB in a little bit of trouble against UNCC here this morning in the American. UAB took money out from 4 to 4.5 point favorites. And now we are in a close one where they're down 4.
Yes, they are. Charlotte, are you ahead? 54-51, 10 minutes left to go here in the second. Here we go. Look at this. Now it's a 5-point game. So the 49ers, who, like you mentioned, got bet against, pushing the Blazers here in the quarterfinals of the American.
Lots of really good college basketball going on today and throughout the week as we welcome in our good buddy Will Hill here on the Progressive Guest Line. Get some best bets from him, VSiN contributor, writer over at Fox Sports, also the host of the Shoulda Bet More podcast. You can download wherever you get your podcast. Well, where's this week rank for you in terms of just the games and quality we get?
Oh, it's so good. It is right near the top. I love October when you get playoff baseball and football, but with that, especially on the weekends, there's almost like too much going on where you can't give it all its proper attention. When you've got these conference tournaments from basically the time you wake up till the time you go to bed, the games didn't end till like 2 o'clock in the morning last night, and then you get another game starting at 11 o'clock in the morning on the East Coast. And by the way, if you had George Washington, my condolences, plus 6.5. Oh, my goodness. The way that landed on 7, the rebound at the end, that's just about as tough as it gets. But I love this day. You know, you can argue what's the best day of conference tournament week, Thursday or Friday. Thursday, I think you get a few more games, but Friday you start to get some of the better games, although there's a balance with, all right, some of these teams, they're already in the tournament and there's not as much for some of them, but you got enough bid stealers out there, enough one-bid leagues still playing where I would say Friday narrowly edges Thursday for the best day of conference tournament week and leads into Selection Sunday and just good times ahead. It's a lot of fun. Chris,
sorry, I was watching something else. Yeah, Will,
come on.
Tell this, I'm sorry, you and I don't talk enough. I don't even know what Chris I was thinking of, to be quite honest with you. Tell this one over to my right here. If your alma mater was in action, would you stay up until 9 o'clock to watch them in a must-win scenario, potentially? Because, I mean, she's sitting here talking about going to bed today. Oh, I'm tired, can't stay up, can't do this. It's conference championship week. What are we doing?
That's not a real question, is it? That's not a real debate.
Well,
I'm
watching
know
the
you're not talking
game.
about Stormy.
I'm just not going to the game. There's a difference.
That's not what
There's
you said.
a difference.
Not what you said.
Said, it better be a better game, otherwise I might doze off. I did add that.
Will's got to stay up. That thing's going to tip at midnight for Will, maybe even later. I'm sure he's going to watch the whole thing.
You're staying up to watch the Mountain West bubble hoops tonight, aren't you?
What else would I do? I mean, this is America. It's March. Well, I mean, I don't think there's another option.
Exactly.
Okay.
All right. Let's get to some of the bets. I'm going to cut you off. I'm taking it over. All right, let's get to the Big 12. A very interesting matchup here. The SEC. I'm all over the place.
Aren't you going to go in order?
What are you talking about?
Graphics and stuff?
Yeah, and that's the list that I've been given here. Oklahoma and Arkansas. What are we doing here? Oklahoma's catching a number, and I think you'll like that number.
I am taking 7 with Oklahoma. I'm surprised this is this high. Oklahoma has quietly, sneakily snuck onto the bubble. Last team out, according to Lenardi. I guess if you trust the bubble guys or you trust the bracketologists, they win this. They got to be on the right side of the bubble, I would think. I'm surprised you're catching the 7 with them. Questionable motivation for Arkansas, especially Acuff, who's just a tremendous player with all the elite freshmen. He gets lost and forgotten about sometimes. He's coming off an injury, so I think he's going to play, but are you going to get a full 30, 35 minutes out of him? Are they going to load manage him? Is he 100%? Those are all questions. You look at Oklahoma, buried A&M. They've won 6 in a row. They won at Texas. They buried Missouri a few games back. They're playing extremely well. So I've got the motivated team playing well. I've got injury questions with the best player on the other side. I'm happy to take the 7 here with the Hungry Sooners.
Yeah, this opened 5.5 up to 7.5 now at FanDuel and some other spots as well. So keep tabs on that as we get closer to that 6:30 Pacific time, 9:30 Eastern tip-off. Top overall seed Duke barely gets by Florida State yesterday, 80-79. Noles even led by 8 in the second half here. What do we do with them today, laying double digits against Clemson?
I gave my condolences to those who bet George Washington. My condolences also go out to the Bear and anyone who tailed the Bear. Florida State 200-1 to win the ACC. Very live, a chance to win it at the end, a big lead. That's a tough way to lose that ticket, and you can do all sorts of things with it if they won that game. But I'm gonna fade Duke here. I just don't know, and I know they've been spot proof pretty much all year, the second half at least. I just don't know if you're going to get their best fastball in this tournament. They're banged up. They're missing their point guard. They're missing the center. Do they have one eye on the NCAA tournament here and just say, you know what, let's get out of here healthy? So I question Duke's motivation. I question the minus 350 price tag, considering how beat up they were and all of those things. And Clemson, to me, profiles well as a dog, even though, boy, if you laid that 1.5 last night, that's another brutal beat, up 18 or so with like 3 minutes to go. Clemson, they play slow. They play good defense. You're getting a bunch of points. Who knows where Duke's at mentally here. So the line has come down a touch, opened 11.5. I agree with this line movement here. I'm going to take the Tigers plus the points.
All right, let's go to the Big East. Seton Hall, ugly offensive team, but get a big win over Creighton yesterday. They get St. John's today, catching a number. What are we doing here?
Yeah, it's ironic because Seton Hall, they probably can't get in the tournament unless, they're at large scenario. If they do beat St. John's and then UConn in the title game, that would probably give them enough to get in with at large. But if they beat both of those, they get the automatic bid, which is kind of ironic. I'll take the points here. These teams met a week ago, kind of a coin flip game. St. John's pulled away late and covered, and that was kind of a rough beat if you had Seton Hall and the game ticked over late. They've played twice. It's been pretty competitive both times. Seton Hall led by 15 the first time, and they were right in the game last time. So you got a desperate team that's motivated. They're getting the 3 possessions. And I always think 7-8, that's a key number. Maybe they foul a little bit more in the conference tournaments, but at 6, 7, sometimes, especially 7 when it's a 3-possession game, sometimes you don't foul at the end, and that becomes a key number in basketball, not just in football. But a good defensive team. St. John's can struggle offensively, not very efficient on offense. Both teams play really good defense. So to me, close to the vest, low-scoring game. This looks like a lot of points in that type of game.
Talking all things conference tournament action with VSiN's own Will Hill, also host of the Should Have Bet More podcast, joining us here on the Progressive Guest Line. Back to the SEC, where Vanderbilt, for a time, was one of the hotter teams in the country. They start the year 16-0 before things started to fall off during SEC play. Did have a couple nice wins under their belt, though, including a recent win over Tennessee, despite closing as a 3.5-point dog. Vols, we saw them rally yesterday to beat Auburn. What do you think about this spread today? Tennessee laying 1.5, and that total down a couple points from 149.5 to 147.5.
I like Vandy, and I like this Vandy team. I know they've had their ups and downs after a good start, but I like their coach. They've got a first-round guy in Tanner, and it's interesting. Both teams won on the other team's home court by exactly 4 points. So 2 games against each other, 80 minutes, neutral in terms of the scoring, 0-point differential. So that goes to show these are pretty even teams. And I know, Vandy, they're probably going to get beat up on the boards here. Tennessee's bigger, tougher, stronger. I get that. I just think at the end of the day, you're probably going to be trading 2s for 3s here. I think Vandy's going to outshoot them from 3. And I like the fact that Vandy, even though, they split and the games were even, they really didn't do much from behind the arc in the 2 regular season meetings. They had 5 made 3s and they had 9 made 3s. You would think that's going to be an advantage there. So they survived getting out rebounded despite not shooting the 3 well. I'd be pretty confident here that Vandy does outscore him, outshoot him from 3, and I'll trade 3 for 2. And I like the coach. I like this kind of just the makeup of this Vandy team here. I don't know what their ceiling is. Probably Sweet 16 type of team. Maybe they're a sleeper to get like an Elite 8, but I think it's a good matchup for them, and I think they win here. 3s versus 2s is really the crux of the handicap.
All right, let's actually go to the Big 12 now. And Iowa State, they've really been struggling over these last 3 games, Will, when they've taken on Arizona State twice and Texas Tech. Do you trust them here against Arizona after 3 somewhat, lazy performances in which they won by 20-plus and won by nearly 40?
I think Iowa State looked a little sluggish to end the regular season. It just, sometimes you play Houston, you play Arizona, you play these elite teams. It just takes its toll mentally, physically. It looks like they've found a second gear here, a second life. So I like them getting the points, 3.5. I think there's still some 4s out there. And I actually think there's a little bit of a home court advantage. I'm not sure the market is taken into account because they're playing, that game in Kansas City is much closer to Iowa State. I think they'll have a pretty solid contingent there. They look refreshed. Can they throw themselves back into the conversation here of teams that can actually win it? I think most people are down to like 4 or 5. Some people have UConn. Some people have Houston. Some don't. I know they don't shoot the free throws well, but they do everything else pretty well. I think they're maybe peaking at the right time, if that's possible here, after a sluggish end to the regular season. So I'm going to take the points here with the Cyclones.
Well, you're awesome. Thank you so much for the time, buddy. We appreciate it.
All right. See you. Thanks for having me.
Will Hill, follow him on X as well, @NotTheWillHill. And to that point about home court as well for Iowa State, Arizona fans probably biding their time, knowing that if they got to pay to go somewhere, I want to pay to go watch them in the NCAA tournament, maybe save up to see if they're in a national championship. By the way, we are this close now with conference tournaments starting to wrap up to Selection Sunday and finding out who exactly is going to be in that bracket. You're going to be a big part of that coming up on Sunday, talking about all of those early lines as they come out on DraftKings and other places, as as we kick off Sharp Week here on VSiN. We're going to have sharp analysis on every single team, every matchup, every round from the first four all the way through championship day. Whether you're filling out a bracket, you're playing a survivor contest, you're betting every game on the board, whatever it is, VSiN is your place. Go to vsin.com/sharpweek to see if you can take your tournament game to the next level. We got to step aside, but so much more to come as we continue to keep tabs on all of these games. We've also got a couple games in the NHL coming up, a full NBA card, so lots to discuss on this Friday edition of Money Moves. Keep it locked right here.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
If you're looking to put your March tournament knowledge to the test at the highest level, we've got something fun for you. Splash Sports is offering $1 million in guaranteed contest prizes in their high-stakes Survivor contest for the dance. $1,000 to enter, $1 million on the line. It's just like NFL Survivor, but for the tournament. You make one pick a day. You can't use the same team twice, which gives you a little bit of a strategic element. Outlast everyone else, and you're in for a share of $1 million. And right now, new players using promo code VSiN MM26, MM for Money Moves, get 50% deposit match up to $100, a free Quick Picks entry up to $20 on them, plus a 100% Quick Picks payout boost on an entry up to $20. Entries close March 19th. We are getting close. Don't wait. Head over to splashsports.com/VSiN. Use that code VSiN MM26. Must be 21 or older. Available in select states only. Stormy Buonantony, Jonathan Von Tobel with you back here on Money Moves, VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. We got an interesting result in the books now officially. Missouri State and Louisiana Tech in Conference USA. We see La Tech get the win, 99-66. And for a total that closed 134.5, you get the over by the hook with 135 total points scored. So we have that. And then in the balance here, a big one for Charlotte and UAB. And I know it's a 5-4 seed game, but we'll see how this plays out. Charlotte extending a little bit here after closing a 5.5 point dog. They're laying 6.5 on the live line.
Not this. I mean, yes, you're right, because that's the story. I believe they just threw this up, and that three that just went down for Mingo there, that was the 14th consecutive made field goal for Charlotte.
Sheesh.
Their offense has been absolutely incredible here in this game. Yeah, 14 straight made field goals for Charlotte. This has been an absolute bloodbath for them defensively. But UAB, they're still hanging around.
Yep.
The fact that you've given up 14 straight makes, but you're still only down by 7 is somewhat of a good sign. So we'll see if you can stop the bleeding at some point. But holy smokes, man, 14 straight made buckets for the Charlotte 49ers.
And to that end, with Charlotte scoring, it looks like this thing is going to soar over the total. And It did take over money. It was 144.5 up to 147.5. That live total 165.5. So we'll see if this rolls on here. Kentucky and Florida as well. We're like right on that cover number right now. Florida up 50-38 with about 11 minutes to go here in the second half. Your live total there 139.5, which is way, way, way down from where this thing closed at 160.5.
Yeah, and I think, obviously it depends on whether or not Kentucky's going to get back into this, whether they're going to start fouling and maybe extend this game out and thus get you over some adjusted totals. But Florida, they haven't gotten the best result, but it looks like they've been kind of killing Kentucky in transition. Almost every single time they're ripping and running and getting some opportunity, whether it's a free throw or a dunk at the rim, whatever it is. So Kentucky's transition defense has been a little bit of a problem here against the Florida Gators. And the Gators continue, of course, to play very well. Everybody's flavor of the month. And as we enter the NCAA tournament, we'll be considered, obviously, one of the best teams in the country. And we'll see if Todd Golden can get it done again. The creep.
Yeah, they're trying to see
creeping back up the stage.
I love that you never let that die. They're trying to see if they can get that fourth and final 1 seed. Obviously, we know the big three who feel pretty cemented in Duke, Michigan, and Arizona. Could it be Florida? Could it be UConn? I think Florida's got the best case to be made, but we'll see how they ultimately play out here in the SEC tournament. We do have some other sports going on as well, believe it or not, including the NHL, which, as I've complained about earlier this week anyways, absolutely zero balance to the schedule this week. It's 13 games, then it's 2, then it's 14, and now we're back to 2 again today.
Would you get mad if I interrupted your hockey for just a brief moment? Just because I think we are about to tip off between Wisconsin and Illinois.
Oh, yeah, hit it.
Yes, we should note that this is closing at about 8 for most spots here, total 158.5. And you know me, I like this Wisconsin team a ton, and we have seen them steal one from this Illinois group. So for fun, Let's go with a Wisconsin first half wager of plus 4.5 so we can have a little bit of a sweat during the show.
Okay, I'm here for it. I'll root for it. I don't think I'm going to throw that into the account. I've got enough going on right now. But for a Wisconsin team that was leading by as many as 18, for that to be as close a call as it was yesterday against Washington, like big picture thoughts on this game? How do you feel it might play out?
With Wisconsin, I think they can cover. I mean, I trust this team offensively. I really do think that they're a team capable, as we've talked about. I've added them at 125-1 to win the whole thing, that they're capable of going on a run and standing toe-to-toe with these teams, too. So, yeah, I would think that for sure for the game, inside 1.5 is something they could do.
Okay, so like I mentioned, 2 games in the NHL today.
I think it's a 1.5.
8.5, yes. One game I have no interest in, but I'll still touch on it briefly anyways. Kings at the Islanders, 4:10 Pacific time puck drop, 7:10 local on Long Island. Both of these teams out of the playoff picture, inconsistent results. We did just see them go head-to-head the other day. Last Thursday, a 5-3 Kings win. Isles have won their 2 games since at San Jose and at St. Louis, back at home tonight. Kings pretty up and down, alternating wins and losses the last 6 after a 5-game skid. Most recently lost at Boston 2-1 on Tuesday. My general feel is that the Islanders should handle business at home, but at minus 142 for teams I don't like, it's just not worth the play in my opinion. Low total here as well at 5.5. Oilers Blues is where I do have a little bit of intrigue here, and we see Edmonton a minus 155 road favorite here in St. Louis. High total 6.5, which has become the norm. We have seen more 7s on Edmonton games than any team in the league this year. And yesterday we got over the 6.5 again yesterday. The both teams to score prop in the first period, by the way, I'm still a little annoyed with, because I talked about the first period over being juiced a little bit too high, so let's take this angle instead. The freaking Dallas Stars score 3 in the first period, and Edmonton only had like 2 shots or thereabouts.
Really?
So very frustrating result there in the first period. Neither here nor there. Edmonton, we know, despite what we saw yesterday in a 7-2 blowout, is a very capable scoring team. We listed out all of the metrics yesterday. The number 2 in the NHL in goals for per game, the best power play in the league. With the goaltending for the Blues today, expected to be Joel Hofer, who gave up 4 to the Islanders his last game out. He's been really hit or miss. He's either like nails and is allowing 1 or fewer goals, or it's a blow up and it's like 4+. Edmonton, we know on the other side of things, struggles defensively, and St. Louis has been able to score pretty readily lately, put up at least 3 a night for 6 straight games in 13 of their last 14. All of this together leads me to believe we're going to get another high-scoring, volatile game. Both teams on the second half of a back-to-back could mean it's a little bit more sloppy, usually, than defensively. So that's the route I'm going to go on that one. I could see the Blues maybe getting an upset here just because of the struggles that Edmonton has had lately, but nothing ultimately on the side. And over 6.5, most spots are juiced minus 115, but shop around because there are some that have the standard minus 110. This is kind of like a hockey baseball comp here, because we also have the World Baseball Classic that gets underway in the elimination round today with the quarterfinals. Team USA obviously facing Canada. And while the Devils are not in action today in the NHL, Mark DeRosa was on the podium yesterday talking about how Jack Hughes, who scores the golden goal for Team USA over Team Canada, I guess sent the team this video message trying to hype them up. They're going to have some hockey stuff in the clubhouse throughout the course of the day getting set for this game. They've been bet up from an $8 to a $9 favorite on the money line in this one, laying 4.5 on the run line.
Yeah.
I have nothing really for this game, but it just goes to show how dominant people think Team USA is going to be, even with some of the struggles they've had at the World Baseball Classic.
Yeah, and I think even some of the struggles maybe might just be more mental, at least the ones that we saw, than anything else. Again, thinking that you were along, anything like that. So I would trust that they're going to be able to get this done, especially you would think that from a non-data motivational standpoint that after you guys were just getting crushed, and DeRosa himself about you didn't know what was going on, the partying, late night stuff, guys were dragging the quote, that you're going to come out here and put forth a very good effort. And, well, it's baseball. Still a rival, one would assume, right, against Canada. So I would say that you're probably in a good position. And like you said, I mean, if you don't have the bankroll to do it, it's not worth it. But at minus 800, you can make the argument maybe that was a little cheap, and that's why the market got pushed up here a bit.
Maybe you can throw that in your NBA tanking money line parlay that we're going to touch on a little bit later. That could be a leg. Another big favorite as well for the Dominican Republic against Korea in the first of the 2 World Baseball Classic games today. DR up from, I believe when we were on the air yesterday, they were minus 750. Now it's minus 1100. They're also laying 4.5 on the run line, juice to minus 130 on that end. High total here as well, sitting at 10.5.
This one I didn't really have much on. I mean, again, we're talking about some pretty big favorites, so you want to put them together with stuff. I think that does make some sense. And it seems like we are on a collision course for both of these teams, and that might be the real final here. But I mean, look, the Dominicans lineup has been absolutely fantastic and everything you expected them to be at this point. So I think you could probably even flirt with laying the run line.
Yeah,
They'd
maybe.
be perfectly capable of doing that.
Again, 4.5, that number right now. And those two teams that are the big favorites today, U.S. and the DR, we said favorites to win it all right now. Team USA down from plus 140, though, to plus 130. So they have been taking some money. Dominican Republic plus 250 as well, followed by Japan at plus 370 on the board. And Venezuela 9-1 before we get to the double digits with all those big dogs coming up today and tomorrow. Also, just as a tag here, we didn't say this yesterday, but we talked a lot about Kyler Murray going to the Minnesota Vikings. That ends up happening. And we saw the odds all move into that area. March 3rd, Minnesota was 2-1 to sign Kyler Murray. By March 7th, he was minus 275. Deal officially done yesterday. 1 year minimum, vet minimum deal. And they just hope that he can rise the floor a little bit for Minnesota.
They'll be a playoff team with him as a starting quarterback. And I would expect that he's the starter week 1, no?
75-1 MVP?
Yeah. I don't know about that.
It's a quarterback with long odds.
Yeah, but I would say that I feel confident he will start week 1, and we'll have another situation where a team's got to decide what they want to do at quarterback.
I'm in agreement with you there. When we come back, a couple more games set to tip off in the next half an hour or so. We will dive into that, as well as we just mentioned that tanking parlay. Where should we be looking today in the association? We'll hit on that and more next.